All right, here we go. MLB.com senior
Oh, look at
insider
that.
Mark Feinsand.
First of all, the
joining
hat's
us for the
fine, Mark,
first
but that
time.
shirt is god awful. God awful.
Well,
Quit
my
trying to-
son's a sophomore at the U, so once you start paying tuition, you become an automatic fan. That's just sort of how it goes.
Hi-ya!
You missed. All right, let's get to first important business. Mark will be with us this Saturday. We're excited to announce to the FT fam, which we did already on social media this morning, that the 2024 winners of those Writers Awards that we all talk about, the premier awards in our sport, will be handed out on Saturday, and the show will be live for the first time ever, and FT will be running it on our YouTube channel. Mark, we're really excited to work with the BBWAA chapter in New York. Can you tell us more about what to expect? Because fans have never witnessed this live. We're going to blast it out to the world.
Yeah, this is a really cool event. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. I've been the chairman of New York a couple times before, a couple years, and emceed the event. Those might not have been my favorites because that's really stressful, getting up and speaking in front of 1,000 people. But if you're watching it and you're not the one who has to make any presentations, it's a lot of fun. This is our 100th dinner. Like you said, award winners are going to be there. We always get some cool presenters, have a few surprises up our sleeve every year. And it's just a chance. It really, you're talking like 2 weeks before spring training starts. So it's sort of like the official goodbye to the 2024 season, and we kick off spring training a couple weeks later. So, it should be a really fun event, and we're really excited to have you guys on board with us.
Now, Mark, so it's managers of the year, rookies of the year, Cy Youngs, MVPs. Am I missing any other award winners that will be there? So we're going to get Shohei, we're going to get Judge, we're going to get Skeens, Luis Heel, both managers of the year.
Maybe Libby Dunn?
Sale,
and
a friend of the show.
Tarek, who was a friend of the show.
Wait,
is there any other?
There's a big name that you'll be excited because it's one of your favorite players of all time who's going to be there.
Lamar.
You don't see often at events.
Lamar.
So in addition to the national awards, this is the New York chapter baseball writers dinner. So we also have some local awards that we hand out to various players, not only from New York teams, but all around. So among the other people being honored, Oswaldo Cabrera from the Yankees is getting our Community Service Award. We're presenting an award to Don Mattingly and Dave Winfield for the 30th anniversary of their 40th anniversary of their big batting race, and just sort of representing what they meant to the Yankees throughout the 80s. Susan Waldman and John Sterling will be honored for their 20-plus year run as a booth together now that John is retired. The Mets are going to be honored for just sort of everything they did in New York last year. We're actually honoring the OMG Mets. So I'm sure there will be a lot of fun going on there with that crew. It's not just the national award winners, but obviously, those big boys are the centerpiece of the show.
Wait, is Iglesias going to sing live? Because I'll totally get into it. Scott will have his, you get the flick going, he'll have his glow sticks, some orange and blue. Yeah,
wait, but you got to tell everyone who's coming. I think we can say it.
Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah,
I just found out.
I think it was put out. I mean, one of the legends that's going to be there. Mark, we can say it, right?
I'm not sure which one you're talking about, and I don't want to speak out of school, so feel free to say what you want to say, and I'll confirm whatever you say.
Barry Bonds is coming. I think we put it in the press release. Yeah. Barry Bonds is supposed to be
Barry
there
Bonds is supposed to be there, which is very exciting. Obviously, seven-time MVP, and with our 100th dinner, we always like having, as many big names as possible. We're obviously, with Willie Mays passing this year, we're going to do a tribute to Willie, and who better to talk about Willie than his godson? So Barry's supposed to be there, and but when we have big names like that, it's one of those things where, having been involved in the planning of this dinner as long as I have, until I see the person walk through the door, there's always that part of me that's like, something's going to happen with their flight, or, there's going to be a snowstorm. We had one year, I'm trying to remember, it was the year Dallas Keuchel won the Cy Young Award. So that would have been 15 or 16. And we had everybody at the Hilton for the dinner, and usually everybody gets in on Friday, and the dinner is Saturday night. Well, overnight Friday, there were 30 inches of snow in New York. And it absolutely wreaked havoc on the entire event. We had to cancel it because the city was on shutdown. We ended up putting on sort of a smaller private event that, fortunately, some TV cameras were able to capture. And it was basically just the award winners and their parties only. It was like 125 people in the room instead of 1,000. So snow is our worst nightmare. and we'll be doing the anti-snow dances here for the next 5 or 6 days in New York.
As a rookie going to this, what do I need to make sure I don't miss? Because I'm kind of starstruck, all the names that are out there. Like it's exciting for me, but what do I got to make sure I don't miss?
Well, I think you're going to have a different rookie experience than most because a lot of these guys are going to go over to your set and talk to you. I think it's just honestly the sight of the dais of all of these award winners and all of these huge names in the game being up there together in sort of a social setting. It's not a press conference. It's not a game. It's not any sort of formal thing. It's really a social event, and just being able to see them all together. Usually you get one or two really good speeches. I know personally, I'm super excited for Pat Murphy's speech because that guy just is nonstop entertainment, and I would imagine that he will come up with something quite amusing or entertaining and at least thought provoking in whatever he says. So I think it's just seeing all these guys together is really cool, and it's a rare opportunity to see all of these stars of the game, not at an all-star game or something like that, but just together. They're all tuxedoed up and looking sharp, and it's always interesting to see what certain guys come out with certain flair in terms of their tuxedo a little more than others. So I'm looking forward to some of that too.
Mark, I just looked at the weather for next week. I appreciate you guys having a heat wave for me, 38. I mean,
that is hot.
I know. I just left Chicago. It was negative 40 when I left. It was ridiculous. So thank you. No snow in the forecast.
Keep the snow away.
No snow in the forecast at all. Okay, so you're good with the no snow. Now, what's the dress code for this event for me? Because I have a Pat Murphy T-shirt that he signed for me that has his picture on it. Can I wear that? And it also is an added bonus that says "Kratz sucks." So I figured that would be appropriate. Is that inappropriate?
You're free to wear that. You won't be allowed in the VIP cocktail reception, but you'll be able to get to your set at least. So
okay.
Yeah, no.
Is it black tie? Wait, do I need a tuxedo?
It's black tie for the award winners and the presenters and anybody who's sitting up on the dais. Former chairman as myself who go into the pre-cocktail reception. We all get tuxedoed up as well, just because at this point it's pretty much the only time I wear a tuxedo is this dinner every year until my kids start getting married, and hopefully that's a long time away. So, but if you're just in the general audience at the Hilton, certainly it's not casual, but you don't need to be in black tie. A suit or a sport coat or something like that is perfectly fine.
Yeah, and I'm excited for our audience. Obviously, I mean, you don't have to pay to watch it. You can watch it live. It's going to be on YouTube. It's even actually going to be shown in Japan on Fuji TV. If you're watching our show right now and you're looking for it, it'll be on out there. But Mark, we'll get to talk to you more on Saturday. Let me ask you a couple relevant topics right now. So you broke the news this weekend about Tanner Scott. What do you think about the Dodgers heading into 2025? They have a pretty good chance at competing, right?
It's finally nice to see them catch a break and, get somebody to go to LA. And I think they could be okay. I mean, they're probably favored by 12, 14 games to win the division. Look, obviously their roster is incredibly impressive and there's a ton of talent and they just keep getting better and more people, joining them. We still have to do it on the field. Still have to stay healthy. I mean, as good as their rotation is, who's the workhorse in that rotation, right? You've got a lot of guys who throw 120, 130 innings a year. So will they stay healthy all year? Will they, will Sasaki have no problem making the adjustment? Will Snell stay healthy? Will Glasnow stay healthy? What will Ohtani look like when he comes back and pitches? So, yeah, I mean, on paper, the Dodgers should wipe everybody up. I mean, their roster is incredible. But we've seen a lot of teams on paper that looked unbeatable. And even if they look unbeatable over 162, best of 5 series have a way of making funny things happen. I mean, I covered the Yankees for a long time, and I watched teams that won 103, 104 games go out and lose in the first round. So I don't think you can just automatically hand them the trophy. Now, are they going to be the favorites going into the year? Darn right they are. But again, let's see what they look like come September, October. What does the health look like? And everything else, because we've just seen too many times where it's not always the most talented roster that wins the World Series. So I don't think you can just pencil them in as the champions just yet.
What do you think their number one strength is? If you put like different categories, money, player development, the big league team. What is the Dodgers' number one strength? Because right now everybody sees, oh, they just have way more money. No, they're just spending more of their money. They may have some more, but they don't have this much more. Other teams just aren't spending it. But what do you think is their biggest strength to be able to build this team?
I'm gonna sort of boil it all down into one thing, and that's Andrew Friedman in the front office. Because Andrew, since he's gone to LA, has tried to operate the Dodgers with the same sort of sensibility and approach in his evaluation, talent evaluation, everything else, and farm system and everything else as he had in Tampa, where he was very successful. But now he's taking that Tampa approach with a $375 million payroll. Those two things married together are really lethal. And I think the fact that he's been able to continue to churn out talent through his organization, and you're not only relying on free agents, but when there's a free agent you want, you can go get him. And so I think that all certainly, helps them be where they are right now. And of course, just, it's a historic team, plays in a beautiful ballpark and beautiful weather. And why wouldn't you want to go there, especially when they're putting together a super team the way they have? So it's a very appealing destination for potential free agents. And, I just think the way that their organization has been run top to bottom, it's not just writing big checks. They've also brought up guys through the system who have gone on to become integral parts of that team. And when I think back, once again, I always bring things back to New York because that's sort of where I started. If you look at those Tory dynasty teams, yeah, they had a financial edge over a lot of teams, but their biggest edge was being able to bring up guys like Jeter and Posada and Rivera and Pettit and then keep them. And so the Dodgers, when they do bring up young homegrown guys, they have the money to keep them. And to me, that's a bigger advantage than anything else.
All right, let's go to your Hall of Fame ballot. Give me one that was the toughest for you that you checked yes, and one that was the toughest for you that you left off the ballot, which is coming up here. We're getting all our tallies coming up here.
Let's see. The toughest yes. I hadn't voted for Rollins over the past few years, not because I didn't want to, but mostly because I didn't have room on my ballot. He was like number 11 on my ballot the last couple of years. So I think getting him on there, I finally felt happy that I had the opportunity to give him a vote, because I sort of feel like if you're voting for Utley, you kind of have to vote for Rollins also. I have Utley a little higher than Rollins, but I really appreciated watching Rollins play the game and what he brought to the Phillies throughout his career. In terms of the no's, I took A-Rod and Manny off of my ballot last year after voting for them for multiple years. It wasn't that I deemed them any less worthy than I had before. It wasn't that I was all of a sudden taking some sort of a stance against PEDs. Again, it was more of a numbers game. We are limited to 10 spots on our ballot. Last year, there were, I think, 3 or 4 new first balloters that I wanted to get on there, and I just didn't have room because there hadn't been a bunch of guys put on the ballot or taken into the hall the year before that cleared off space on my ballot. So, if I had an unlimited ballot, I would still be a voter for A-Rod and Manny. But as long as it is the way it is, and as long as the rest of the ballot looks the way it is, I'm just going to have to keep leaving them off. If I see them make some real moves, make some real traction towards, let's even say 50%, forget 75, then I would certainly think about putting them back on. But right now, with them sort of lingering in that 20-25% mode, and they haven't really had any movement, it just feels like a wasted vote at this point. And, if I have other people who I feel I want to give my votes to, then I'm going to do that instead of voting for guys who I think have no shot.
Okay, makes sense. You know what? That might be the best explanation I've ever heard of anyone why they take people off or why they vote for guys. So, Mark, thank you for that. But I know you were a part of the Tulane thing last week, the arbitration hearings. We had the guys on last year, remember, from Texas, and I actually had a friend of mine's daughter compete in it this year. She had Jaron Duran's case.
You got to explain it for the crowd.
So there's an arbit. I was going to have Mark explain what they do, and I was going to have Mark explain his role. So they have an arbitration practice competition, right, where schools get certain players and they have to make arguments on both sides and they don't know what they're getting until I think they get there, right? Am I right with this?
Yeah, so it's the Tulane International Baseball Arbitration Competition, run by the sports law program at Tulane Law School, and they bring in this year, I think it was 42 teams from different law schools, and they basically come in and put on mock arbitration hearings. They're simmered down as opposed to like a regular hearing is an hour for the case in chief and 30 minutes for the rebuttal. In this competition, it's 15 minutes for the case in chief and 7.5 minutes for the rebuttal. They're given the players maybe like a month or a few weeks in advance. This year it was Jaron Duran, Cal Raleigh, and Alexis Diaz were the three players who were used as the arbitration cases. And basically each team is given told to prepare like both sides of one player, the team side and the club side and the player side, and then one side on each of the others, and they're told what to do, but they don't know which ones they're putting on until they actually basically get to Tulane like the day before. And it's really interesting. There have been people, so I'm a judge, I'm not a competitor in this because I'm neither a student nor in law school. But the judges for the event are mostly club employees, people from the union, agents, a lot of industry types. I'm the only media member who's there as a judge. I've been going for 7 years, and it's really a great event, great chance to network with some people, and really a great chance to see some of the youth of our sport that wants to get into our sport. And there have been many people. I've seen a number of people who I've seen as competitors there, who 2-3 years later, all of a sudden, I run into them at spring training or at a ballpark, and they're like, "Hey, do you remember me from Tulane? I was a competitor in 2022." And I'm like, "Oh, that's great." Now they're working in like a front office for a team. So it's really neat to see these kids get into the arbitration process the way they do. And the agents and club people that I've spoken to said that some of these presentations, some of the slides these kids use, they're just as good as the ones that get used in real arb hearings. So it's pretty neat. As somebody who really didn't know a whole lot about the arbitration process and has never been in an actual hearing before, it was fascinating the first time I got to go there and do it, and it's one of my favorite events of the year on my calendar for sure.
My friend said she'll never do it again. That's all she said. She said there's too many. She said there was too many numbers. She said it was too many numbers.
Well, what's interesting is there
she's going to graduate law school, but she said no way. She's like, I'm done. Too many numbers. I can't
What's
do
interesting
this.
is there are times where somebody will go up there and they'll present the case for the player or the team, whichever side they have, and they're amazing. Their oration is just great. Their oral advocacy for their client is wonderful, and they're making these great points, and they're effective speakers, and you could picture them like as a trial lawyer. And then you talk to them afterwards, and they're like, "Yeah, I don't know anything about baseball. I basically like was told what all these numbers were, and we just practiced it a lot, and I have no interest in going into baseball. I just thought this would kind of be cool to do." And then I'm like, "Oh, so what are you going to do after school?" I'm like, "Oh, I have a job with the prosecutor's office in whatever city." Or
Yeah.
there was one girl I met this weekend, and I said, "Are you looking to get into sports afterwards?" She said, "No, I have a job at the Department of Defense all lined up for when I graduate." I was like, "Oh, so you're going to be like a real lawyer? Okay, cool."
Well, that's like the arbitration panel because a lot of them don't know much about baseball, and that's part of the game here. They're like, we're just going to present the case. I mean, we can get into that all day, and we have in the past, but